We'll quickly move on to our next panel. Let me introduce you all to our next panelist and the moderator. Next, we have someone who is at the heart of the business of storytelling. When we talk about content, we cannot not talk about how OTTs are taking over our imaginations. We have with us EVP and CMO of Hotstar, Sidharth, who's going to speak to Natasha here today. We also have with us Director and Head of Media Partnerships for Meta, Saket Saurabh. Saket has led entertainment, sports and music partnerships for Instagram and Facebook, and has led marketing for global media brands like History Channel, Forbes and CNBC in India. If every company will be a content company, then Saket can teach us a lot about how to run one like a media company. The panel is going to be moderated by Natasha Puri, who is content marketing lead at Pepper Content. Over to you, Natasha. Let's give them a huge round of applause.
Okay, just testing this. Everyone can hear me at the back? Yes? Okay, cool. I think everyone is hungry and thirsty. Wink, wink, wink. So we're going to make it quick. No, I think we need to do this. We have to earn our meal. Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to ask the most important question. I think most of the people in this room need to know this, Sidharth. What happens when your app has so many visitors and IPL is around the corner? And so how do you guys prepare for this? The biggest event, I guess, for you. And I'm sure a lot of people in this audience want to know what that IPL fever is, what happens at the, what we can't see at Hotstar.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So what happens is a mix of delight, mayhem, chaos, excitement, lots of things. It's also a journey we've been on for over 5 years now, and so we've kind of things have become a little more organized, things have become a little more structured. But at the end of the day, I'll just answer more in Uber terms at this point. Every IPL is an amazing opportunity for us to connect and be meaningful to many, many more people's lives. And if it was just IPL that we were connecting over, it's a very transactional relationship, right? It is not my content, it's not IPs that I own, it's here today, it's gone tomorrow. The relationship is more transactional in that sense. So the goal always for me has been, IPL is great, but I think of it as a bit of a vanity metric. And the goal for me and for the way I've driven this at Hotstar has always been that people will come in for IPL, but our goal has been to move them to other forms of entertainment, right? So entertainment that we own, entertainment that we have IPs for, how do I take a large portion of this audience? This is kind of a funnel. And how do I take a large portion of this audience and have them sample everyday entertainment that comes into Hotstar, right? Because that builds an everyday habit.
Right.
That builds a more meaningful connect then it's not a property-based connect. Then it's more a destination-based connect. It's more a life, it's more a purpose that I'm solving for them, right? And to do that, this is where MarTech comes in big measure. All these people come in, I need to constantly understand what are their preferences, what they like, segment them, micro-segment them, take them on different loops that kind of expose them to different kinds of content. And based on it being a negative or a positive feedback loop, serve them more of similar things so that they can, get onto second and third and fourth titles and deepen their engagement. Or if they've negated what I've shown them so far, how do I kind of replace it with another batch of recommendations that actually make sense for them? And if they've left the platform, how do I take those learnings, funnel them into my off-platform marketing programs, whether performance or display reach, whatever it might be? How do I funnel those learnings into my off-platform marketing program and then bring them back? And then when they come back, how do I show them the same things that I've actually recommended to them off-platform? So there are various MarTech stacks that we've built, to achieve this. And it all happens in the moment, right? So it's a fairly intense activity. And that's how, at a very Uber level, that's what happens at IPL, right? From a marketing and a growth perspective.
So, I mean, the IPL is a starting point, but, there's a lot of talk about buyer personas in content marketing. And one thing that Hotstar does so well is that you have the IPL crowd, and then you have the soap opera crowd as well, and you have people watching Anupama, and You are catering to South Bombay, you're catering to Kanpur. How does that happen? How do buyer personas work at Hotstar?
5 years ago, I was told you will be the death of cricket and you will be the death of GC all at the same time. Because the people who come to watch entertainment will see cricket and they will leave. And the people who come to watch cricket will see entertainment and they will leave. I believed nothing of that kind would happen. And thankfully for my future and my career, nothing of that kind has happened. But I think it's been there's power in aggregation when done correctly. And that's what I've believed in and that's what we focused on. And I think we've never, contrary to popular, it might be a little counterintuitive, we've never tried to make personas from the very beginning. I think we've approached it differently from, say, there's a cold start problem that I have, and how do I solve the cold start problem where I don't have any information about anybody coming in. There is a collaborative filtering approach also that I can apply, which is if people see something, other people come who are very similar to these people, can I show them the same thing, right? And there are different ways and means in which I've tried to segment the audience always, right? Either from a cold start perspective or from some information that I have on them, and that's how the personas have come about, Personas have also come about using MarTech off platform. I'll give you an example, and this is an interesting story, and I'll try to make it as brief as possible. So, the highest, when you're bringing people in for cricket, the biggest point at which people come in, the propensity to come to Hotstar will be the highest, obviously, when there's something exciting happening in a match, right? And so if I can, at that point, when something exciting is happening, I can bring that before you, and even if you're not on Hotstar, off platform, on displays and stuff like that, if I can bring that up to you, I'm more likely to get you that at any other point, right? So when we get the IPL feed, what we did is we passed the text feed out of it. And that text feed we fed into a system, so this is all proprietarily built. We fed into a system which actually picks up an image, picks up text and picks up the CTA, all of which talk to what the text is saying. So there's some intelligence working that actually allows you to pick the right image, the right body copy and the right CTA and combine an image on the fly. So let's say Dhoni hits a 6. The text feed comes in, the system makes it on the fly, serves it up outside the platform on wherever, Meta or Google or wherever it might be.
And subtle plugin.
And so you bring those people in. What we were seeing is that intuitively it would be when a 6 is hit or something like that. That's the most exciting part. But people were not coming in. There was a section of the people who were not coming in when we were throwing up a 6 is being hit or whatever it might be, which typically were the most exciting parts of a match. Some would come in, we would throw more of this at them and they would come in even more. But the ones who were not coming in, we segmented those and we started cycling through different creatives for them. So we created a different segment and it so happened that Dhoni hitting a 6 was not when they would come in, but for example, they started getting served another creative when Virat Kohli just walked into bat, right? And so they started responding to that. And the insight, and I think somebody spoke about the insight earlier, which is so true. The insight that we derived after we started segmenting and micro-segmenting and the creatives that they started responding to was that they were not the core cricket lovers. They were actually hero worshippers, exactly. So this audience does not care whether 6 is being hit or whether chase is hot or close. They're there just to watch Kohli and Dhoni, right? And they're not really match followers. And now you can surmise that this would be a more equally distributed mix between men and women. I don't know. I won't go to that length because I don't have that data. But the point is that this insight here was that they're actually hero worshippers. And this programmatic, dynamic, creative optimization engine allowed us to create the content, segment the people, serve them the right content, and thus form personas of these people. So that's how we've done it a few times.
Amazing. So Saket, your resume is quite interesting. I mean, you have all of these media companies, and then now you're at Meta. So I have to ask you, how can brands act more like a media house? And I think it is the need of the hour. When we talk about content marketing, we can't not talk about brands actually dealing with content like this, right? So you're the expert, tell us how.
I'm not the expert, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share a few thoughts here. I think one of the things, and I think what Sid was saying speaks to it, but one of the things that I think I've changed or I've seen change is we have this notion of branded content, right? The smartest brands have now understood that there is a difference between branded content and content from the brand, right? And we tend to confuse the two concepts, and we've always thought of branded content as a follow-on to the campaign creative. Maybe the motivations are that you want to win a few awards, the agency's actively pursuing you to be more creative, and this is far from the MarTech, 100 creative optimization world, right? I think you need both, right? The smartest brands realize that they need to have both in their acquisition funnels, they need to have it across the journey, and so I think that has been the biggest transformation that I've seen, and there are tons of brands that I think are doing phenomenal work when it comes to that content from the brand worldview, right? I mean, I'm happy to share more examples, but even if I look at some of the great work that Hotstar has done, you look at the Shah Rukh Khan campaign, you look at Anupama, I think we spoke about Anupama, I saw brilliant creative on Reels with effects, right? Emoji effects. Now, that's an amazing way of saying the same things, which is essentially saying, hey, come watch this show because we have a new season. But using tools which engage the audience and help build a deeper connection, right? And I just want to share a few pieces of stats which to me resonate a lot, especially when it comes to content marketing. Instagram, for example, has over 1 billion accounts in the world. 90% of accounts on Instagram follow a business, okay? 90%, which means this is an audience that wants to hear from brands and companies of some kind, right? Almost half of accounts use or interact with Reels every week, right? So now and when they interact with Reels every week, we see 80% of Reels interactions having sound on. In India, 35% of Reels have effects in it. What am I trying to tell you? That if you look at one of the biggest issues in advertising is what? Ad avoidance, attention deficit. The reason you see short form video growing leaps and bounds is because it comes from a consumer insight. It doesn't come because a few tech companies decided to acquire users, right? The fact is they're getting resonance, which is why you see this reinforcing wheel, right? So my point is, in a world where attention is short, audiences don't have patience, you need to have a content worldview. That doesn't mean you give up on paid marketing, you give up on optimization, not at all. It just means you need to know how to blend it, and you need to thrive as a content or a media company, so to speak. I'll just close with what I just saw, 3 days back. Nike just finished 50 years, and Nike just did a brilliant creative with Spike Lee, right? Now, they could do 100 other things to say, I'm sure they will, but it broke to me, and I love the brand. It broke to me with that Spike Lee led rap collab video. It did so much in terms of what I think about Nike. So I think it's marketers, and Sid included, there are many marketers in India, Spotify, I can go through a whole list of brands that I think are really at the cutting edge of knowing this nuance and balancing this right.
So I just want to also touch upon one more thing here. And Saket, this is for you. So, these big brands, your Nikes and your Hotstar, with big budgets, they're going to do awesome stuff on Meta and Instagram, etc., right? Let's talk about the smaller guys. So, can you talk me through perhaps some D2C brands or, some startups that are doing phenomenal work, perhaps on Reels? Let's kind of add that to the conversation.
Sure. I think one I can, which comes to mind is this brand that is into basically a nursery, right? They tied up with Kareena Kapoor Khan during Diwali, and it was about gifting plants to people during Diwali, instead of sweets or what have you, right? It's a brand called My Bagicha from Ahmedabad, right? And I just thought it was very interesting. It was an interesting use of a celebrity. Even if you see the content, it's not in your face. It feels organic. She's sitting at home. She's actually pointing to plants that she loves. And then says, hey, it just naturally flows into this Diwali. Why don't you order online? I thought that's a great way of telling a story, finding a core user using Instagram, and also using celebrity well. We know so well that celebrities are not always used well, right? And they're not the answer. They should be used, but they have to be used in a certain way. Some brands do it really well. Some just, sort of thump it there and it doesn't work, right? So I think My Bagicha comes up. I think even, I wouldn't agree that it's only about the small brand. I think what's interesting is how the large brands are taking up to it, right? Equally. I find that change equally refreshing, right? I want to talk about Spotify because I think it's one of the best examples. They did this holy playlist, right? They also did this campaign with creators where creators are talking about how they use the playlist for their day, right? So if it's a fashion blogger, she kind of says, hey, here are the songs that get me going, right? And it actually led to 20% DAU growth. Now Spotify is not a small platform. To see a 20% DAU lift because you began with an influencer campaign is very refreshing, because the classic refrain you always hear with content campaigns is, oh great, we'll win awards, everyone will clap, but do I get down the funnel, do I get real conversion? But this is serious conversion from the Spotify perspective. So I think these are the kind of examples that really sort of resonate. I see a lot of D2C and online first brands doing great work. I mean, I actually posted about it the other day. I discovered an amazing packaging brand on again, purely Instagram, right? And I think it'll give a run for money to any major, backpack brand out there. So I think we all know and see the discovery that Instagram provides, and then goes on from there. So yeah, there are tons of examples like that.
Yeah, I think Pepper's doing fabulous work on Instagram as well. Please do check out our reels. Very subtle plugin. Yeah, but speaking of influencer marketing, right? I mean, I have to talk about the Shah Rukh campaign that Hotstar just did, Shah Rukh and the Anurag Kashyap campaign. So how does a brand kind of pick the right influencer for that, that represents them? And so what is that process like? So if you can talk us through some behind the scenes stuff perhaps there.
That's a really good question actually, because a couple of things you mentioned in the question were exactly what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to pick an influencer. I was also very small brand at one point. We were also very small brand at one point.
Okay, I take that back.
So no. The point is when I joined the brand, I could never get on board a celebrity the way I wanted to. But I always thought that sometimes you need them, and a lot of times they're used just for the sake of using. I feel they're lazy. Sorry if I'm being blunt, but I feel they're lazy choices at some point that a lot of marketeers might make. And I always wanted to stay away from that. So, and we did stay away from that for 4.5 years, but we built the brand on the narrative of category drivers. We created a lot of content around how the brand was allowing you to use control, mobility, convenience, all of that stuff, and so how it allowed you to live your life, right? The ads we built before that, which was, I don't know how many of you have seen the Superheroes campaign, which was Koi Yaar Nahi Far, was kind of a piece of content. It was less an ad, more a piece of content. Of course, it was 30 seconds. But that's how I believed in building the brand, because my belief is that if you have something to say about the brand, if you have a proposition to make, let that proposition be the center stage. And if you put drama behind it, if you put good content, and I'm using ad also as a content here, if you put good content behind it and the proposition comes out clear, then your brand is the hero versus somebody else being the hero. So when we were thinking about the campaign last year, which is when we first went to Shah Rukh, I just wanted to do things differently. So I told the team, we are not going to go to ad agencies this time. Sorry, I hope there are no ad agencies here, foot and mouth, but we said we are not going to go to ad agencies, and I want to go to content creators. And I want to make an ad with content creators, and my team came back saying, wo long format hai, ye nahi hai, wo nahi hai, short format nahi aata. 30 seconds. I said, I don't care, let's just go and see, right? So we went, and we went to Tanmay first, right? Again, not a cheap choice, but now I'm a big brand. So went to Tanmay. So he had some ideas, right? So I said, okay, let's flesh it out. Let's put a team of people who can write ads behind Tanmay, and let's see how they can get these ads done, right? So they said, okay. So we put a team of 2-3 people behind Tanmay who kind of fleshed it into an ad format, the concept that he had written out, right? Only after that did I go to a director, right? And I said, okay, now you need to, there's no agency here involved here. I said, now you need to make an ad with this, right? And even Shah Rukh Khan, sorry, the story of Shah Rukh Khan is different, because we were just saying, what should we say? We said, we have such great content on Hotstar, nobody knows about it, and then somebody in the team said that, actually Shah Rukh's never done an OTT series, I wonder why. And I think somebody else in the team said that, Well, actually, there's no content on Hotstar that has. Funnily, there was no content on Hotstar that had Shah Rukh at that time last year. Now I think there's something, and so we said. So I said that's interesting. He's not done an OT series. He's not done an OTT series. There's no content on Hotstar that features Shah Rukh. Maybe Shah Rukh's trying to get into Hotstar and can't get in because we had such great content here. And that's how that idea of using him came about. So we didn't go looking for a celebrity, or an influencer, but that's how the idea came out. The point I'm trying to make is that, and then when we amplified it, we first amplified it with content makers and influencers, and then later on went to TV. But the point I'm trying to make here is that don't force fit a celebrity onto a brand. I think influencers have roles to play and very important roles to play. But I think we make a mistake when we try to force fit them. And if you ask me for Hotstar, we have to build the category, literally, because there's only so many people who pay for content in India. We are trying to go to 100 million people who pay for digital content, which is a big category building job. And there's a lot of behavior change involved here. And now I believe there is obviously your Uber influencers, but everybody can't go to Uber influencers, and I'm not sure there's an ROI in every time you go to an Uber influencer. So there are micro influencers now, people who create a lot of stuff on Reels, right? People who are in some way, shape or form looked up to, whose recommendations are taken seriously. So when we want to go deeper into Bharat, into tier 3, tier 2 towns, whatever nomenclature you want to give it, when we want to go deeper into India, I think what these people say about the brand, how these people use the brand, how these people, live the brand, becomes a kind of a path for the 50, 60, 80 million people more that I've got to get to Hotstar, And I think so they have a large role to play because they are shaping culture. In a way, these influencers are shaping culture at that level, right? And you want to be a part of that culture. As a brand, you want to be meaningful. Of course, the assumption that you're doing something that can be a part of the culture is first and foremost. I mean, if you're not even in that tone, then you can't be. But basically, you need to be you need to have these people who take your message forward because they are a part of the culture. They are shaping that culture, and so your brand becomes a part of their everyday lives. So I think in that sense, it's important. But I've given you a case where you should not be using influencers and a case where you actually have a case for using influencers. So I think that's how they're important.
So it's interesting you talked about these micro-influencers and creators essentially, right? And I think Saket, Meta is playing such a massive role in boosting the creator economy. I mean, I think people are making so much money off of these platforms, right? And doing things that they never imagined would actually, you could actually end up monetizing. So I want you to give me the last word on influencer marketing. What is the future of influencer marketing from you?
Wow. Okay. Look, I think just to add to what Sid was saying, I'll give you a stat, right? We run this program for emerging creators to discover new creators called Born on Instagram, right? We have 120,000, 1.2 lakh registered participants. 70% of those participants come from tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? These are not folks that we've gone and acquired. These are folks that have found us, right? That tells you the resonant demand for being creators, for having a voice, for being, for having a desire to have an expression, right? So this idea of the creator idea being that you do this after college, or if you aren't doing anything else, I think that's going away. The fact is, if anything, the last 3-4 years have told us is that creators are now mainstream, right? Increasingly, we see this not just from the consumption side on our platform, we see this from the creation side on the platform, which is the point that I think it's an amazing stat. And we have traders, I mean, there is a creator called, we did this thing called 25 under 25 on Instagram. The entire idea came because we realized that it's not the biggest and the brightest celebrities, it's not the Shah Rukh Khans of the world. It's actually folks who have deep resonance and following, who are not hitting the top 10 charts of Instagram or Facebook. But I mean, there is a creator called Bihari Ladka who does satire and poetry. You should see his work. Or there is somebody called, Rupam, right? There are so many. I mean, I can just go on and on. Extremely talented, with it, trendy, but not in Mumbai, not in Delhi, not in Bangalore, right? So I think this is something that we are very excited about from a Meta perspective. And I think when it comes to the second part of the question, which is on influencer marketing, I think two or three things are very clear, right? One is that, like I said right at the beginning, that the brands have understood that they have to expand what they consider as proprietary assets, right? 20 years back, the proprietary asset was the print ad or the 30-second TVC. Today, when you're launching a large-scale campaign, you are necessarily launching with, let's say, we see a lot of brand songs. Some of them don't do that well, but they all, a lot of them come with effects, right? There's a, Nagin is a very popular show on Colors, they did this effect. Lal Singh Chadda just launched an effect. These are media companies, but we see effects. I know Sugar Cosmetics did something with effects around Valentine's Day. So Tinder launched something called Swipe Right material around Valentine's Day, right? Which is a song. So you see brands expanding their assets, right? Whether it's an effect or a song, the hashtag is a given. You know, it's not even a surprise that with a campaign you need a hashtag. It tells you that brands have realized that you need a content and a conversation layer around your campaign, right? So that's where on the brand side influencer marketing has moved. I think the challenge, and I wouldn't call it a challenge, but I think the opportunity there is where can you take it down the funnel, right? So I think on the top of the funnel, when it's really just about awareness building, the influencer marketing use case is very strongly established, right? But what we are now seeing is that on Instagram or on Meta, the best users of influencer marketing are getting both kinds of results, right? Outcomes are not just defined by the top of the funnel behavior, it's also about what you're doing on consideration and finally on conversion, right? So the best campaigns are able to bring both together. On the influencer side, I think monetization, like you rightly said, we've seen a 35% growth year on year on creators who are monetizing on our platforms. And that's a huge number, given the number of creators who we have, right? We have a very, very strong ad engine in terms of in-stream on Facebook. You'll be amazed. I mean, obviously, I'm not at the liberty of quoting numbers, but some creators are making serious dollar revenue. And they're not even in the big cities. They're not even creating in English. They're not folks who would probably, they're not somebody, who are sort of in the urban landscape, right? So monetization is really going through the roof. And we are investing a lot of time, not just in ad monetization, but in end user monetization. We have products around subscription now. We have products around gifting and tips. And so the idea really for us is to give as many tools to a creator to monetize an audience. It could be a end user based revenue line where you have core audiences that want to keep coming back to you. Like gamers tend to see that, right? Or it could be an ad revenue line where you're doing branded content partnerships with top brands. Many of them are here in the room. Or or using the ad auction system to get ads served and take a revenue share. So I think monetization is diversifying and deepening at the same time. And both on the demand side, which is the brand side, and on the supply side, which is the creator side, I think we are seeing huge resonance. So I think it's going to, 5 years out, I think you will see a whole new evolved way of content marketing, call it whatever you may, but I think the whole layer of, hey, it's something unique and different, I think it's going to get mainstreamed. And you will see sort of layers of success in that. That's what my personal view is.
Amazing. So we've talked about content that aids conversations, conversion, we've talked about influencer marketing, we've talked about buyer personas, and all in time for dinner and cocktails. So I think that's it from me. I have many more questions, but I don't think this audience is going to wait. Just look at.
I think we've also worked hard enough.
Yeah, I think we've earned our meal and our drinks. So that's it from me. And now over to Pawan. Thank you.